I apologize. I'm not neglecting y'all though. You know what ended up happening? I was actually making another video. I thought that I would make one video and keep it on private, and then I would go live and do this one, and then I would release the one that's on private later in the week. So my apologies. It ran a little longer than I had expected. So sorry. Thank you, Cinnamon Hot Hot, for being here. Thank you, Diamond, for being here. Wait, what? He's stupid in and out, but knows he can use stupid as a defense. But I'm still thinking he's not a lone wolf. I just wait, because, I'm kind of going to say some things that you may say, what? So you and I may be on the same wavelength there. Hey, Pam Frenchman, welcome. Welcome, Saricia. Good to have you. Hi, Jackie JM. Good to see you. Hello, Sandra. Absolutely beautiful in Central Texas, north of Houston. I know, right, Pam? It's a beautiful day. Hey, Steffi SG. Happy Friday. It's my day. It's Wild Speculation Day. Hi, Cindy Sue. You were right. I did eventually show up. Better late than never. Hi, Dawn Mitchell Parks. It's a beautiful day in Northern California. We got a beautiful day in Northern Houston. We got a beautiful day in Northern California. And we got a beautiful day on the Bay. Hey, Skitty Nona, Carol R., welcome. You have not missed anything because I and Marilyn Monroe were both late. Hey, Bernard G., welcome. Yes, it was crickets. Now it will soon be a cacophony because Barry Behind Bars is so excited to be a part of this live. I've really been looking forward to hearing Jules' thoughts and opinions. Thank you, Pam. Hey, True to Me, welcome. Daisy Joe, good to see you. Hybrid Pisces, my friend, welcome. Hello, Irene. My goodness, there's a lot of people here today. Hi, Crystal, officially the longest name in YouTube. Hey, Crime Sleuthin, how you doing? Awesome thumbnail. Thank you so much, Crime. Appreciate it. Hi, St. Elmo's Fire. And Scarlet Summer, welcome. Critters, my friend. My pink hand waving back. Fancy Nancy, you got snow? Oh my God. Rabid dog. Don't leave any yellow spots in Fancy Nancy's new snow. Okay. See my tutu. I heard you get called out on Peter Tragos' channel. He gave you a call out, didn't he? I was like, yes, See My Tutu has arrived. The lawyer has given you a shout out. Hey, Jackie Blue. No, it's wrong. Woohoo, Jackie Blue. Hey, Brent Montgomery, welcome. Tiffany Guzman. Oh, are we at the bottom of the line? Almost. Leela, welcome. And Callie Connect. Aw, Barry deserves some millet seeds. Actually, he got new millet this morning. They got new food, new water, new millet. They got everything. All right, I'm done. No more shout outs. It took a long time to get there, right? Okay. So the world's dumbest criminal or serial killer wannabe, or is this guy crazy like a fox? So I want to see what you guys think. In the chat, I want you to put either crazy like a fox or the world's dumbest wannabe. And I'm going to wait for a second while you pull that up, while you put your answer in. Ooh, Jackie Blue. All right, let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Sleuth said something. Do you happen to have a screenshot of the casket Cher was allegedly helping Billy Joe choose that she posted? I do not have that. I don't even know about that. I mean, I don't know what you're even talking about, so I don't know. Crystal said he's an idiot. He's an idiot. Hey, Just Lewis, crazy wannabe. You are too mean. Dumbest wannabe. Criming, sleuthing, dumbest wannabe, dumbest wannabe. Oh, we have a consensus here, people. We got more votes for Brian Kohberger is the world's dumbest serial killer wannabe than Kevin McCarthy can get for Speaker of the House. Bad joke, right? Bad joke. Hey, Mel Mac, welcome. Okay, dumber and dirt. AP says on drugs. Okay, so I guess I can talk about the drug part first. There are some people, creators and whatnot, there are some people that seem to think that perhaps Brian Kohberger was sober when he was planning this nightmare, but then maybe he was either like drinking or maybe took too much Xanax or meth or cocaine, but that maybe he used some kind of substance to sort of build up his courage, right? And that's why he made so many foolish mistakes, right? He cut off the phone at the house and circled the house for an hour and a half, being caught on door cams over and over as he drove in circles. I agree, Crystal. Yeah, very dumb. Yeah, so Jackie brings up my point, and I definitely understand this idea of, maybe he was too intoxicated, maybe he got sloppy because of some intoxicant that he was using, and even though book-wise he thought that he had developed, a dastardly plan that nobody would ever catch on to, the reality was that he was a bonehead. I mean, just the circling of the car all by itself was just dumb. Like, it doesn't even rise to the level of smart. It just is obsessive and mindless. But is that evidence of grandiosity? Is that evidence of feeling untouchable? Is that evidence of having way too much confidence in what he was about to do? What do y'all think? Do y'all think that this was about his delusions of grandeur and that he was feeling self-important and untouchable? Or do you think he's just a little dumbass? And I'll wait for your answers. That would surprise me, Christina. I have never heard of an inmate being able to use YouTube. I find that to be difficult to believe. Now, there are other people that know more than I do, for sure. So, but according to my experiences, that would be very unusual. We don't even let our juvenile offenders use YouTube. The ones that are incarcerated. They have email capability, but no YouTube, no. Jess says he got cocky. Stevie says, I think he's both. I think he's a dumbass and he was under the influence and he got cocky. Yeah. Sloppy. Cocky and sloppy. Scottie Morris says, I think he needed to stretch out the time for his enjoyment and feeling superior. Intelligent without a lick of common sense. Grandiosity. Narcissist with delusions of grandeur. 100% crime sleuthing. Yeah. Hybrid said, 100% dumbass. Okay, the dumbasses win today. Well, not the dumbasses, but the vote for dumbass, Brian Kohberger was a dumbass or is a dumbass, wins. Okay. Brian Cockyburger. There you go. Brian Cockyburger. Okay, now then. So I can accept this idea that he was intoxicated and he got sloppy. I definitely. I think the sloppy part was the never-ending circling of the house. It was, you know what it ended up doing? it painted a big bullseye, didn't it? It was a big bullseye. As the cops began to look, if they had access to phone pings, it just would have been going ping, 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 and you would have just seen this, right in the middle of this circle is the target. So yeah, even though he thought to turn his phone off and whatnot, it was still quite foolish, especially when there was a road that he could park on, that he had visual access down the hill to the house. So it's very strange. There's a part of this that is important, I think, in my determination of, did he get sloppy and stupid, or was he intoxicated, or was he, as any psychopath, was he impulsive? Here's what I mean. He moved to Washington in June, correct? But when you go to the affidavit, when did he start casing this neighborhood? When? June. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. This guy is just moving to a new place, and he's finally on the verge of the coveted PhD. He's starting the program for PhD studies. Most people that get into a PhD program and they move there and they're ready to get started, you're on the campus, you're walking around, you're excited to be there. You're having, dreams of when you walk across the stage and they say, Dr. Brian Kohberger, right? I mean, that really should have been his headspace, but it wasn't. What was his headspace? He's hunting. He's hunting in Idaho the minute he moves there. Why? Why? It's so crazy to think about. I've actually been thinking about this since the affidavit came out, and I said, June, my God, I had heard anecdotally some people like on bulletin boards posting, oh, he stalked them for 3 months. And people kept saying, no, you're wrong about that. It was only 3 weeks. Well, actually, June was the first time that they found his car in that neighborhood. And that happens to be the same month he moves there, right? Now, before you correct me, because every great creator has a set of little annoying trolls, okay? And they correct you and they tell you you're dumb and you did something wrong. But listen, trolls, I know that he's in Washington State, WSU. And I know that the girls lived, Ethan was spending the night with Xana. I know that the 4 were at 1122 King Road in Idaho. But I also recognize it was less than 10 miles apart. And it takes me further to get to my target than what it would have taken the monster to get to their house. So from here to where I go to Target is 10.2 miles. It takes like 7 minutes to get there. So they, for all intent purposes, they could be living in the same town. Yeah, I know it's different states, but just bear with me. I want to talk about vicinity, not political state lines, okay? So he moves there in June, and already he's there in their neighborhood, skulking about. Does he show up at 2:00 in the afternoon? No. He's skulking about in the early morning hours, hunting. There's been a lot of people that have said, oh, I don't think he knew that Ethan was going to be there. He got surprised. No, I think he knew exactly who was going to be there. I think he was watching these young people for a long time. And I bet there's a notebook. I bet he was keeping fastidious notes about who he was seeing and what he was seeing. And so he'd go one night and he'd look, and he'd see if he could identify, see some people. And then he'd go back home and then he'd pull them up on the internet and try to figure out which one of those frat boys was at that house. Right? I think he had built up confidence before he ever went into that house that night. I also wonder if there was a connection with the Uber thing, the Uber Eats. It's so 4 a.m. Can we be honest? Even in a college town, 4 a.m. is pretty early in the morning to be ordering food, even after you've been partying. I know it happens. I mean, how many times have you gone into the kitchen after a night out, with your friends and cooked up some fried bologna sandwiches because there was nothing else to eat, right? Or cut up some hot dogs and some pork and beans. Gross stuff, right? But it's not really typical to get delivery at 4 a.m. And so part of me wonders, did like with Chris Watts, he had a plan and he was in the process getting ready to execute the plan. And then maybe he got a notification if he's been an Uber driver, like Uber Eats. If he's been a food delivery driver, maybe his app went off and said, hey, you got a delivery opportunity on King Street, or shows the area. And then he said, oh, hell, now I can't go because there's going to be a driver coming in. And maybe that's why he left the area and watched. And sure enough, here comes the Uber Eats guy, makes his delivery, and then he leaves again. And then at that point, then the monster drives up, and does the dirty deed. I also have to tell you, never have I been more grateful for or accepting of the greatness of the all-American house cat. Cats have gotten a really bad rap compared to dogs. You know what I mean? And if it hadn't been for a cat walking around at 4 a.m. in the neighborhood, they never would have gotten the picture of the white Hyundai. So those of you that hate on cats, you might want to stop a minute. Because there was a cat that was ultimately responsible for this guy getting caught. So, just want to say, and I'm not being goofy. I'm telling the truth. At my own house, we have a lot of cameras and stuff around my house. And every time one of the nighttime cats or we have these birds, night herons, and what else? Possum. We have a couple of possums. Every time they come through the yard, they trigger all the cameras. And then Piddlin' Bill gets so mad because he's thinking, was somebody skulking about the house? And then he checks and it's always a cat or something. And I told him, I said, hey, buddy, that cat walking across your yard may capture a criminal one day. So just, give it a rest. I love cats. Yeah, I love cats. And that's right, Elizabeth. You don't know if maybe that cat got curious. Maybe the cat did hear something going on. Maybe that cat was going to see, hey, what's happening over here at this house? It doesn't usually happen at this time of day. And that's what triggered the camera to go off. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. Yeah. So the cat triggered the sensor, and then the camera took the photograph of the car, the white car, and that's how they knew. They began searching for the car, and really they pretty well knew that, or they had a really good idea within 2 weeks. This was the guy right here. So, yeah, it didn't turn out like he envisioned at all, did he? So the one thing I felt like the one thing he did that demonstrated stupidity was the constant hunting in the neighborhood with his telephone on. So the only time that he turns the telephone off is during the commission of the crime. But all the other times he's casing the neighborhood, he had his phone with him and he had it turned on. Oh, wow. Gosh, Brian, Big Bri, all of your intelligence and brilliant planning, you never thought of this idea of patterns of behavior. You should have thought about patterns of behavior, Brian. At least if you had left your phone on during the commission of the crime, then at least it would have been the same pattern of behavior. The defense attorney could have said, "Oh, but they're making a big deal out of the fact that Brian's phone pinged the night of the murders right there by the house." But if we look, for 3 months, Brian always drives through that neighborhood. He always drives to that neighborhood because he is an insomniac. He can't sleep. And so he drives through the same roads night after night until he gets sleepy at about 5:30 in the morning, and then he falls asleep for 2 hours. This is Brian's pattern of behavior, and there's nothing nefarious about it. If he had been doing wrong, he would have turned his phone off the night of the murders. Aha! But he did. So the defense attorney can't use that information. It just looks like exactly what he was doing. He was hunting. He was casing the joint and taking notes and getting to know the people that might be there, might not be there, what time they shut things down, what time they woke up. And then the one night that he turns the phone off happens to be the night it happens, right? So dumb. Brian, you're dumb. You're the world's dumbest serial killer wannabe, Brian. All right. What's the next thing that he did that was really dumb? I'm going to take a suggestion from y'all. BBT, how are you? You in the jungle, baby. I heard one of his sisters is... Okay, the sisters are not psychologists. The sisters are therapists. One of them, I believe... Okay, wait a minute. I am unclear on this. And I can state that with confidence because I've really tried to figure it out. So there is one therapist who is in New Jersey, and she is a therapist in training. She is not licensed. Okay, so she's a therapist in training. There is another one that I believe is a school therapist, like a master's level counselor. I think she is at a school, and she is the same one that was in the gory slasher movie 2 Days Back is the name of the movie, 2 Days Back. So yeah, there's AMK, and then there's MK. And so AMK is at the school as a school counselor and was got one movie as an actress. And then MK is a therapist in training, not yet licensed, but practicing under a licensed counselor in New Jersey. So I hope that at least that's what it seems like to me. And if I got that wrong, I apologize. And if y'all can correct me, I'm open to that. I get triggered every time someone says he is a PhD candidate for exactly half a month. He's not a candidate, not even close to being a candidate, not even close. You become a candidate when you have completed your coursework. And I know Dr. Todd Grande said complete your coursework. He's right. But there's a second step to that. You have to have completed your comprehensive finals. So you go through all of your coursework, and of course you have, tests and assessments and projects that you have to complete for each class. And you have to make either an A or a B, and you're only allowed a few Bs. They don't let you take many B, or no, I'm wrong about that. It's Cs. You're allowed 2 Cs, and everything else has to be A's and B's, I believe. But then after you finish all of your classes, which takes about 2 years. Well, it does take, okay. Oh, this is so confusing. There's an academic PhD and there's a clinical PhD. For what I did, classes were about 2 years. And then we had about another 2 or 3 years. I think we had a minimum of 4 We had a minimum of either 4 or 5 years to complete the program, or you could take up to 10 years to complete the program. An academic PhD is generally completed in 2 years total, right? Like it's 2 years and then you graduate and you're a doctor of education or whatever. So to be a doctoral candidate, you have to complete all of your classroom instruction, and then you have to go through this like assessment test from hell. And it's, for my program, it was 3 days. It was 8 hours each day, and it was 3 days, so 24 hours of testing. And you sat in front of a computer, and you didn't have a pencil or a piece of paper or nothing. You could have a bottle of water with you. And they would give you, the morning session, you would get like 3 questions and you had to answer 2 of them. And then the afternoon session, you'd have 3 questions and you'd have to answer 2 of them. And so basically you just sat there and typed for 8 hours a day, trying to put every bit of information that you've ever learned onto your answer. I mean, to say it was grueling would be, an understatement. It was horrible. It was a nightmare. Once you pass your comprehensive finals, once you go through that week of hell and they come back and they say, yes, you've passed all the different sections of your testing, then, they say, congratulations, you are a doctoral candidate. And what that means is you've done all your coursework, you've proven yourself by your comprehensive finals, and you didn't die of a heart attack during the whole process, and you're not dealing with PTSD. And now all you got to do is write a dissertation, just a little thing like that. Okay. So no, Big Bri wasn't even close to a PhD candidate. Hold on just a second. All right, so I hope I answered that question. All right, so what else did we do that shows that Big Brian is stupid? So Big Brian, he gets to the area, the vicinity, Pullman and Moscow, and he's immediately hunting, with his phone on, and all the cameras and stuff. So everybody the cops found where he's just circling in the neighborhood, right? Except for the night that he harms or kills the 4 young adults. And then he's stupid and turns his phone off. So he doesn't know anything about patterns of behavior. That's number 1. What else did he do that was stupid? No coincidence they found that sheath by the body. It was either planted or he left it intentionally. He left half his weapon with his DNA. Used his car, bought a traceable phone when they sell, or a traceable phone when they sell non-traceable phones. Yeah, curious, isn't it? The whole knife sheath is very curious. And the location of the DNA is curious. Like it's the one place on the sheath that would be very easy to wipe clean. Am I right or am I wrong? Michael Portnoy. It is the little snap, which is smooth, metallic, right? It's exactly the place that you would wipe clean. Yes, I do. It's all like a movie script for him. He is very smart. He knows what he is doing, and his lawyer loves such a case in debunking the state's case. I got bad feelings about that lawyer too, in terms of it's more about playing the legal game than it is about actual justice for the people that died, right? That makes me nervous too, Michael. Yeah, we're kind of on the same page. I'm stunned by how amateurish the dummy was. He didn't wear gloves even. He did wear gloves. I'm telling you, Watts was a master criminal compared to this dude. I think he underestimated the Moscow police department. Definitely underestimated them. He thought it was a small town PD that he could outsmart. He probably had that whole idea too of, well, I'm technically in Washington. They're going to be looking for someone in Idaho. That to me is another indication of his stupidity. No, cops are not so dumb to look at a state line and say, oh, that's like the Great Wall of China. Nobody could get over that barrier. The cops look at vicinity. They look at, was this within 1 mile of the crime, 2 miles of the crime, 10 miles of the crime, 50 miles of the crime? They don't care what the political boundaries are, except when they have to reach out to either the FBI to work across state lines or to reach out to the other side, county police or state police, right? So part of me wonders, was he that dumb that he believed in 2023 or 22 that state line was going to somehow offer him refuge? What do you think? Do you think he looked at the state line as a wall of refuge? Steffi, that's hilarious. No opinions on the state line? Crazy. He was driving by the house repeatedly when Moscow Police Department were right there on the field with those other boys. Yeah, no, it's going to be a snap, Callie. This brings up another welcome, Ellen. Good to have you. Michael Portnoy says the lawyer will bury Dylan's testimony, and the new detective with only 4 years of experience, that will make the case, I believe. Well, look, I'm feeling really bad about DM. His eyebrows were little overgrown shrubs. And Steffi said that her boyfriend has really bushy eyebrows. And so she looked at him, with stink eye. And he was like, it ain't me, girl. I didn't do it. So let me direct you back to, I'm going to talk about this for a second, but I want to stop a second, talk about the whole eyebrow thing. You remember, and Michael Portnoy is, probably already thinking about this because he seems like he's like kind of on the same wavelength. You remember the photograph that was done in a game thing, I think, where the guy is near to the house and he's wearing a ski mask. Y'all remember that? If y'all remember that, put a 1. If you go back and look at that picture, that person also has bushy eyebrows, if I remember correctly. I may be misremembering that, but I'm thinking that he too had bushy eyebrows. But you can look at this guy. This guy's got lips like Adam Lanza. Like there's no lips going on there. They're pretty teeny thin, right? At least the top one is very thin. The guy that's got the ski cap on doesn't look like that. And he kind of looks kind of Polynesian, kind of full, pretty lips. But I'm feeling uncomfortable with that picture out there at the same time that this murder is happening, or these 4 murders are happening. That bothers me. There's a lot of duplicates in this thing that make me nervous. And we remember we have the really weird behavior of Ina and Harsh, who actually picked up and left town. And he's posting all these bizarre, crazy things and kind of giving this impression of, well, if I did, blah, blah, blah. And yet, both me and Twisted True Crime Cindy and Big Ups, and who else? Somebody else. Everybody found this car in Boise, Idaho. Remember when they were looking for the white Hyundai? We ended up, he showed us the Boise, Idaho car. Well, Twisted True Crime Cindy has continued to follow that white Hyundai Elantra in the Boise parking lot. Guess where it is? Somebody in the town where Ina and Harsh grew up and now lives, somebody has purchased that white Hyundai or Hyundai. That is bizarre. You can't make that up. Why in the world does Ina and Harsh jump up and move and goes to a place, and then a week later, the Boise, Idaho white Hyundai Elantra gets purchased and ends up in the same town where Ina and Harsh is now living? Why? How? More coincident? It's too weird for me. So part of my fear, Michael, was that sheath left there purposefully? Will there be other pieces of evidence that look really solid and really good, but pointing at someone else? If this guy is working with another person and there's going to be evidence there, but the evidence is leading to different people, then how are you ever going to get a jury to say, okay, yeah, I think he did it? It would be nearly impossible. So for example, again, this is Friday, Wild Speculation Day, right? This isn't exactly speculation. This is more of like, this is like conjecture, right? That imagine if the cops went and collected the white Hyundai Elantra that is, in the same town with Ina and Harsh in California. Let's say they go collect that car, they do a luminol test, and they find traces of blood that match back to the girls or to Ethan. Well, now what are you going to do? You're going to try to convince people that somehow Brian had access to that car before it was sold. He had his own white Hyundai Elantra, but did they find any blood in it? So there could be, we got to be really careful about our own sense of arrogance, about feeling smug. Yeah, he looks like a bumbling fool. He looks like a clown, 100%. But I'm a little bit scared. I'm a little bit trepidatious about, do I really want to be all in on this idea that he's an idiot? He looks like an idiot. He did some idiotic things in terms of, do you want to get away with a crime? But there's also things I'm nervous about. I'm nervous about that sheath. Here's something else. This guy's 6 feet tall, but more important than him being 6 feet tall, he's got a very large skeletal structure. He's got really wide, straight shoulders, kind of a big set, heavy set guy. What if the shoe print that's left there, what if it's a size 9? Well, you wouldn't really expect a 6 foot tall man with a large skeletal structure to have a small foot. You'd expect a 13, 14, 15 size shoe, not a 9 or a 10. So Marilyn Landis says he's up to something. There are some things here. I'm still on the fence. I'm being very careful about getting too audacious with my, like for example, Chad Daybell. The Chadster is a joke. The Chadster is a weakling. The Chadster is a guy with absolute bonehead ideas. I think he's got some trouble with reality testing. I think he is a screaming narcissist. And I think his kind of crazy met up with Lori's kind of crazy, and it created, a firestorm. This is a little bit different. Let me give you another way to look at it. What if this guy, his kind of crazy, met up with Amber Heard and her kind of crazy? That would be a real nightmare, right? That would be, whoo. I mean, this would be like another Bonnie and Clyde kind of hell has frozen over moment. So yeah, he did some very foolish things. It looks like he made some really, really bad mistakes. And he looks like Lurch from the Munsters, which just makes it a, clearer picture that he's definitely not normal, or he doesn't appear to be normal. Somebody said, if you're 6 foot tall, your shoe size will be 11 or 12. No, depending on the structure of the skeleton, that would affect the size of the foot. Okay, let's see. He does look like Lurch, don't you think, Moonlight? I think he looks like Lurch. Leaving the knife sheath either didn't concern him or he planted it. He wanted it there, one or the other, right? It's just it was a bad decision to make. I heard somebody say that the shoe print that he left in front of Dylan's door, that was a mistake. That was a mistake he made. Was it? Why were there no shoe prints other places in the house? Why was it only right there in front of her door? That would be a question that I would have. Did they do luminol? Could they see evidence of blood in other spots where he had stepped? If you've got enough blood on your foot to make a print right in front of the door, wouldn't you have had at least partial prints? Even it's just picked up in luminol. You see what I mean? So that's curious. I would ask that question. Einan Harsh is Jewish, and this guy sort of looks Jewish too. I know he's Catholic. Yo, it's weird. Was the shoe print inside? It's out. It was inside the house, Critter Watcher, in front of Dylan's door. The eyes are terrifying. The shoe print, it was dark. He didn't know, but he knew he left the knife sheath before he left. Okay. Let me do this. Hold on. Why is it the hurrier I go, the behinder I get? Why is that? Why? Why is that? All right. So if we talk about psychopathy, or a corresponding psychiatric diagnosis would be antisocial personality disorder. Okay. Yes, there's psychopathy and there's sociopathy, and typically those are used to distinguish, like in research. But in terms of clinical making a diagnosis, antisocial personality disorder is the diagnosis that's most often given to a person that you would say is high in psychopathy. They lack a clear sense of right or wrong. And this is much more general than the whole dark tetrad presentation that I did. But people with antisocial personality disorder lack a clear sense of right or wrong. They have trouble empathizing with others. Very often they don't understand their own feelings, and they show very little remorse for their actions. with Chris Watts, in terms of showing remorse for his actions. He ate a piece of pizza or a couple of pieces of pizza after telling detectives the nightmare he had created. The morning that he killed his family, annihilated them, he's looking up new Audis. He's looking to purchase a new Audi because he's the only one that knew that he had life insurance money coming. Lacking a clear sense of right and wrong. Chris Watts sort of alluded to that in the prison interview, where he talked about, maybe if he hadn't been sleeping at Nicole's house every night, then he would have felt more attached. But it got to where he didn't know who he was. He didn't really know if he belonged with Shanann or with Nicole, and he just got all messed up. Well, even people that, are having affairs, they always recognize, no, I'm married. I shouldn't be here with this other person. But Watts lost that discernment because he's a psychopath. People still say, you don't know what you're talking about. He's not a psychopath. Well, he may not be a psychopath, but let me put it this way. According to the research on psychopathy, he sure does give the impression of being a psychopath. His behaviors and his actions tell the story of a psychopath. But you're right. Maybe he's not one, but he looks like one when you look at the research. Having trouble understanding and empathizing with other people's feelings. He's doing the sermon on the porch, and the researcher says, what would you do if they just showed up? Or no, I believe he says, I was thinking about, I just wish they would come back, and I just wish that Cece would just come running in and give me a big hug. And all of the neurotypical, psychologically healthy people, we all went, what? They're gone. They've been missing for days and days and days. All of the friends are in a panic and weeping and crying. And you're smiling, talking about the baby running and knocking you down. No, you're not even close to that anymore. Like, that's not even a reality. But he didn't see that. He just is acting. He's saying what he thought it might be okay. Another example of that would be when he was saying that first night when they weren't there, the family wasn't there. He claimed he didn't know where they were. He said, when I realized that I wasn't going to be telling them, eat all your food now, I really got sad. And again, psychologically healthy people, normal parents, they thought, what? You're spending the first night, you have no idea where your wife and your children are at. Like, no idea. They could be with a sadistic maniac. You have no idea. And you're thinking about telling them to eat all their food? That was very bizarre. But again, he had trouble understanding feelings. He couldn't empathize, so he didn't know what sounded right. And in fact, we even had a Google search where he said, how do you feel when you how does someone feel when you tell them you love them the first time? I mean, he really is really shallow when it comes to healthy emotion. I kind of think Brian is similar. I mean, he looks like when you go through these kind of bullet points, you can even though we don't know much about him, we can already find items that say, yeah, that kind of suggests he's having trouble between right and wrong. He doesn't really empathize very well. He's showing no remorse for his actions. He went to the memorial that was done by the college. He's there on video, walking across the gymnasium, walking through all of their friends and the people that care about them. You can see all the sorority girls, all the fraternity guys, the professors and their spouses, and people were crying and weeping. And this monster just strolls through like he's, going to the state fair. I mean, it's really, really chilling, terrifying. But what about this thing called the psychopathic stare? Have y'all heard of the psychopathic stare? Well, a lot of people want to know, is it a myth? Is it real? Is there any evidence back, explanation to it? Well, some experts do accept that people that are high in psychopathy, they do seem to all look the same. Now, let me see if I deleted that thumbnail. Hold on, let me check, because I put up, no, here it is right here. Okay, I want you to look at, this is Adam Lanza in the months before the murders at Sandy Hook. And this is Brian. I can't tell you how many people have messaged me and said, oh my God, I am convinced that Adam Lanza is Brian Kohberger. People have sent me these messages. Okay, well, they're not. Okay, but obviously people are responding to something. Because there's a lot of you guys that have had that thought. Well, what is it? Well, first of all, their mouths are very similar. The way they hold their mouths are very similar. But their eyes seem to be the same. They seem like they have the same exact eyes. They're deep set. They're really big. They're really wide open. But here's something about them that you might not have really put your finger on. But they don't blink. So, yes, there is published research that people that are high in psychopathy, diagnosed with ASPD, that they do seem to blink less often than a normal person, a person, with a normal personality array, that they don't blink. That's kind of unnerving. And not only do you have that research aspect of it that says, yeah, we can measure people high in ASPD, people that score high in psychopathy. They blink less often than the control group. But also, we have students that were in class with Brian. We have friends that knew Brian in high school, and they all said the same thing. He was unnerving because he stares. He stares at you. No, he's not staring at you. If you watch the perp walk, if you watch where he's walking in and out of the courtroom, he's not blinking there either. Very little blinking. His eyes are dead and flat. They're like a shark or a reptile. You don't see any emotion emanating from eyes. And really, people will say your eyes, that's the window to the soul. Their eyes very often can appear black. Well, according to the statistics, Brian's eyes are blue, and yet it seems like his pupils are always large. And that would suggest, they kind of look black. Maybe there's something to be said for psychopathy and this soulless stare, this expression that just doesn't ever come from the eyes, right? And so the people call it the psychopathic stare. Some researchers have called it a predatory gaze, that people that experience it often feel unsettled, very uncomfortable when the psychopath looks at them. That if you're in a room with one of these people, like a restaurant, that it will feel like they're watching you. And every time you kind of turn, it seems like they're looking at you. Again, that's that long, unwavering, unblinking stare. There's somebody else that I've seen like that. If Martin Smallwood was here, or if AK was here, y'all would know who I'm talking about. There are some suggestions for why they don't blink. kind of giving this intensity of predatory calculation or like an aggressive stare. Some people have described it like they felt like the person was very aggressive in the way they were looking at them. It is the question that some researchers have suggested has been maybe the stare is cultivated. Maybe they've they've developed that ability in a way to manipulate others, to appear menacing, that they've figured out that when they stare and they don't blink, that it's a way to maintain power, that they can control the social interaction if they have this very intense stare. There's other researchers that say, oh no, you're so wrong. You're giving these psychopaths way too much credibility. That intense, unwavering stare, the non-blinking, non-responsive pupils, no emotion, it's just boredom. They're just bored. They're just observing. They're not even really studying. They're just like, I'm here. Okay, what next? Show me what direction to go. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think that unwavering stare has a lot to do with what's going wrong neurologically that makes that person high in psychopathy. This problem that there's no type of corrective emotion. The feedback loop is disrupted. And I think somehow maybe they're less responsive to the discomfort in their eyes. I mean, the reason we blink is to wet our eyes. I mean, there's a purpose for blinking. It keeps your eyes clean and other things. Maybe they just are not really feeling that discomfort. They're a bit numb. And so they don't feel the need to blink like you and I would blink. So the consensus is out on why they're doing it. But I think it is the idea of the concept of psychopathic stare or psychopathic eyes. It's pretty well established. Yeah, it's a real thing. Now, there is this whole, I don't know what they call it. Do you call it a theory? I'm going to call it a theory. And it's this theory of what the Japanese face reading, what they call senpaku eyes. With senpaku eyes, if you look in the mirror with your own eyes, you'll see the sclera on each side of the iris. So there'll be white, and then there'll be the colored part of your eye, and then white. But if you have white above your iris, the colored part, or below, that is actually what they're referring to when they call senpaku eyes. And senpaku really means, 3 whites in that area. Senpaku is divided into 2 subtypes, which is yin senpaku and yang senpaku. And the yin senpaku refers to the white below the iris, and the yang senpaku is the white above the iris. The yin senpaku suggests that you're facing danger from the world, and you're kind of exposing yourself to risk. But the white that is at the bottom of the iris, the yang senpaku, it suggests that your disturbance is coming from within, that you're experiencing internal threat. You're having a hard time managing unwanted emotions that would negatively affect your well-being or your decisions for your behavior that you make, that kind of thing. So basically, Brian, on top of being the world's dumbest serial killer wannabe, he also has yin-yang senpaku eyes. You can see the white all the way around. This guy is seeing danger externally coming at him, even as he is feeling the interior threat. He's a hot mess, people. He is a hot mess. So yes, this Yang Sanpaku is associated with mental illness, and it is most often associated with psychopathy. The psychopathic traits that are associated with that white color, below the eyes, that is, you'll see aggression, angry and violent outbursts, highly suspicious of other people, and poor self-control. That's our Brian. So there was I'm trying to figure out if I want to. Okay, so there's a 2018 study that looked at psychopathy and pupil dilation, not really the whites of your eyes, but the pupil. And they measured primary psychopathy traits and secondary psychopathy traits in 82. This was a clinical population, 82 psychiatric hospital patients, all male. The primary psychopathy traits are generally interpersonal affective traits like guilt, low empathy, ability or tendency to manipulate others. The secondary psychopathy traits refer to your antisocial behaviors, like lifestyle choices. Does the person break the law? Do they have conduct problems? Do they engage in impulsive and risky behavior? The participants were shown images, videos, sound clips that should provoke, in a control group, would provoke negative responses or positive responses, and even some neutral responses. That was like the control group. When the 82 people that were the clinical population, when looking at the negative images or angry faces, there were high levels of primary psychopathy. People with high levels of reported psychopathy, they showed less pupil dilation than other participants. You or I, a neurotypical person, if we're in danger, if we're about to be attacked by a dog, our pupils will narrow down very small. And part of that is to focus in on that threat that's coming, so you're not distracted by anything else. And so they're showing these angry faces. The person's already scored high in psychopathy, and then they measure pupil dilation. Did they dilate appropriately for the angry image, or did it not move at all? And those people that were scoring high in psychopathy, no pupil dilation. The people that were low in psychopathy, they had the normal expected pupil dilation. There was another study where they used 102 male and female university students, and it did not really show any link between psychopathic traits and diminished pupil response. But I can't tell you the importance as a clinician. When you're doing really good research, let's face it, college students are the most researched creatures on the planet, but they don't really give us much discrimination. They're pretty good for broad general stuff, but not much discrimination. You go in to a psychiatric setting and you pick a sample group to compare to a non-clinical, non-psychiatric setting, you got some pretty damn good discernment. You've got some pretty good, yep, we got a reaction here related to the clinical status, and we did not get a reaction here. That's some good research. All right. So there's at least, well, I don't know what to say. Okay, so yeah, even the psychopathic stare has empirical research results that support the idea. Okay. In one, there were 30 men convicted of some violent act, and the control group was 25 men never convicted of violence. They were shown images of faces, and they were given boldness scores on the triarchic psychopathy measure, which is a questionnaire designed to identify psychopathy. And then they looked at how long did this person, how long did they make eye contact with another person. When the study shows that there are links between the psychopathic traits, difficulty processing emotion, a decreased fear response, and overall less time looking at the eyes of another person. So while psychopaths are unblinking, they have an unwavering gaze, their pupils don't dilate properly. If they are looking at you, and this is probably why you feel weird, if they're looking at you, you can't tell if they're looking at your eyes or not. They're probably not looking at your eyes. They're looking at your nose, they're looking at your hair, they're looking at your lips, but very few can tolerate looking at eyes. And this is according to, published research. In a 2020 study on social interactions, there were one sample, 30 incarcerated adults, and then their control sample is 30 non-incarcerated, non-clinical. Researchers found that those incarcerated adults high in affective psychopathy tended to make statistically significantly less eye contact throughout a conversation. The overall research supported psychopathic traits have trouble recognizing and processing emotions, social cues, and facial expressions. This research contradicts the idea of a psychopathic stare. However, it is difficult to discern the eye contact when pupils are dramatically dilated. So if somebody's looking in your way and those eyes are black because the pupils are large, it's very difficult for you to really know, are they looking at my eyes, or are they looking at my nose, or are they looking at my mouth? And that may be why we sort of feel that they're dead, that there's no soul there, because they're not making eye contact. Your brain is not connecting to their brain. Some of the most interesting research is on sustained prolonged eye contact. And the longest measured is between an infant, a newborn baby, and the mother. And they did EEGs of the infant's, the newborn's brain and the mother's brain. And when the mother and the baby are staring eye to eye, they're both looking at each other, their brain waves are going crazy. Like it's really stimulating for a newborn baby to look into the mother's eyes and vice versa. Okay, so there's something really critical happening there. And it's like, your brains are kind of joining. The exact opposite of that, intense intimacy, is a complete lack of intimacy. That when you're looking at a psychopath, someone high in psychopathy, when you're looking at them, their pupils are large. You may think you're looking into them. Your brain is trying to make a connection to their brain, but it ain't happening because they're not really looking into your eyes. They're not making a connection to you. So a lot of people are a bit confused on this idea of psychopathy versus sociopathy. And in the same way that you can distinguish the dark triad from the dark tetrad is the addition of that fourth factor domain, sadism. Sadism is also the thing that takes you from psychopathy to sociopathy. In sociopathy, the person is experiencing emotion. In fact, when they hurt someone, they like it. It's fun to hurt someone. They're having a good time. That's sociopathy. Psychopathy, they're just going through the motions. They're just trying to achieve a goal. And if they happen to hurt someone in that process, oh well. It just is a necessary collateral problem. Okay? So the addition of sadism is a big thing in this area of research. All right. I'm going to quit talking now. By BBT, it just shows a white Hyundai. All right. She may try what? She may try Michael. I'm not sure. I'm sure she will have excellent representation herself. I don't know what y'all are talking about. What are y'all talking about? The lawyer will destroy DM on the stand. What exactly she saw at what time. Plus, it took her 8 hours to call 911. She called her friends to call 911. I think she called her friends to come over, Michael. I think after all that had happened, and she kind of built a barricade on the door and then huddled down in the rabbit hole for safety until the sun came up. And then I think she sat there waiting for someone else in the house to wake up. And when she never heard that noise, then maybe she called one of the boys, one of her friends, and said, something bad happened here last night. Can somebody come over and help me? And she didn't, maybe she refused to come out of the room until her friends got there. That's sort of the way I envision it. It's a little bit different than the way it's been presented as, oh, she looked at an intruder and so then she locked the door and went to bed. I can promise you that did not happen. No. If there's an intruder in your house, that is something out of the ordinary. It's not supposed to happen. It's preceded by hearing Kaylee yell, someone's here, or there's a man in the house, or whatever it was she said, followed by she heard what she thought was Ethan yelling, and she yelled at Ethan and told him shut up. And then she heard Xana crying. And then she's thinking everybody's fighting or freaking out or on psychedelics or something. And she opens up the door to say, what the hell is going on out here? And here's a man, a masked man, walking by her. No, she didn't just go to bed. She went into survival mode. I bet when the story comes out, she would have built a barrier. She probably pushed furniture up against the door. And then she probably sat in a corner with a baseball bat or something, terrified. And yeah, maybe she fell asleep, from exhaustion and fear and all that. But no, I don't think she got in bed with her little jammies and her nice, comfy goose down comforter and settled in for a long winter's nap. I don't think it was that at all. I think it was a horrific, terrifying, traumatic night for her. Otherwise, how do you explain her calling someone to come to the house and she's not even come out of the room yet? Why nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, oh, I'm going to call my friend to come over and see if something's going on because I don't want to get up. No, that doesn't happen. No, I think she called and said, hey, bad things happened here last night. I don't hear anybody awake. There was a man here. I saw him. I can't come out. I don't know what to do. I need help, please. And then they came over. That's what I think happened. Who's talking about bipolar? Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to go to the bottom of the comments. Someone restate what this bipolar conversation is. I'm a bit disturbed by that. Hey, Allie Cattails. Allie, yay for cats, right? Exactly, the one FAFO. We assume it was what we assume it was based on our own wanting to see the best in the situation. Agreed, a scapegoat. I think that's a great way to put it. My only logical explanation is that she thought her roommates were having rough sex games. Yeah, I think they saw Xana, and then they backed out of the house. Everybody was outside the house when the cops showed up. Well, Jada, so think about this. If there's a huge guy in your house, he's not supposed to be there. It's 4 a.m. You've been hearing these strange things from your roommates, and now you're face to face with some stranger. She saw the knife. He still had the knife in his hand when he was walking out the door. So she slams the door, locks it, builds a barricade, and now she's unsure. Is he going to come back? Is he in the house? Is he going to try to break in? And she's just sitting there waiting. She doesn't want to get on the phone and make more noise. She doesn't want to be on the phone talking and someone hear her. She may have sent some text messages and they just didn't need to put that in the affidavit. I mean, there's a great deal of information not in the affidavit. They only have to put into the affidavit what gives them probable cause. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if she was high. The adrenaline totally wiped all that serotonin out. When the adrenaline dumped, she saw that guy, all the dopamine, all the serotonin, it didn't matter anymore. The adrenaline was at top. Oh, Dr. Latina could probably talk about that. I believe DM had a freeze trauma response and then retreated, likely went into survival mode, waiting for sunrise. Exactly what I just said, Dr. Latino, were exactly the right spec. I even would go one step further, and I could even see a scenario, Dr. Latina, where she, was frozen, right? Like she sees this person who's not supposed to be there. And her brain's trying in that moment, like, what the hell does this mean? And there's no answer. And you're just sort of frozen. Once he's out the door, she can kind of like rouse herself, get the door shut, build a barricade behind the door. And then she probably cowered in the corner and maybe even did go to sleep from exhaustion. And when all that fight or flight response begins to relax, maybe she did, or maybe she was so terrified to make any noise, she kept listening. Is he still here? Did he come back for me? What in the world? Maybe she didn't want anybody to hear her voice. So yeah, I agree. Dr. Latina, people need to be very careful about holding her responsible. She came out of it alive, and that was her job, to be alive. And she did it. And so I'm not going to second guess her. Thank you. That one, FAFO. Waited 8 hours to call. No, I think it's different than that, William. I don't think that was what happened. One thing that I haven't seen it. Let's see. What is this? She is not on trial. That sicko BK is for these atrocities. As we know, he did come back at 9. Thank you, that one. I was fixing to say, she's in that room, barricaded in, terrified, trying to be very quiet because doesn't know if he's still there, doesn't know if he's going to come back through that open sliding glass door that she did not run and lock because she was terrified. She was seeking refuge. She was looking for a way to protect herself. And to come out of her room and go over and lock the sliding glass door after he walked out, oh my God. Terrifying idea, right? No, she's going to retreat back into the room of safety. So now she's there thinking, damn it, I should have locked the door. I'm so stupid. What was I thinking? Right? Now she's playing through and her brain's thinking a little more clearly. And now she's going, but I don't hear anybody. Why isn't anybody waking up? It's 8 a.m. It's 9 a.m. It's 10 a.m. Where are they? Where's the sounds? What, And she's terrified. And so finally she calls some of her friends. I guarantee it was some guys. I don't know that to be true, but she probably called one of the guys and said, man, we had a bad problem here and I can't come out of my room and I don't know what to do. We help us, call someone. I think she did what she did. I mean, we do, when we're in survival situations, we do the best we can, y'all. Cree says maybe he left them alive to create enough doubt that she might have done it. No, it's hard. I don't think she would have the physical ability for people, knives. No, that the human skin is very, very, very tough. No, she wouldn't have the upper body strength to do it. And Angelina, that's another good point. The cops didn't want anyone to know that DM saw him because they had not yet taken him into custody. It could have been a danger, right? And he came back to the house at 9 a.m., y'all. Did he leave and think about the fact, oh, I left that girl. I think she saw me. I better see if I can go back and finish the job. We don't know. Agreed, that one. If I remember correctly, Kimberly, I think they texted each other. Right, Blonde PT. I agree. I think she went into hiding. Yeah. It's miraculous that she came out alive and can now be the lone living voice as a witness of the truth. Exact. Well, very well said, Doctora. Very well said. Yeah, pure exhaustion, Melmac. It would have been pure exhaustion. Yeah. She is still alive, so she must have made the right decisions. Me too, language of horses. I'm totally cool with her. She'd be arrested already if she's part of this. Agreed. I'm sure, but I can't make sense of her lack of action. There's info that's missing and makes no sense right now, but I feel for her. Well, yeah. So I understand that it makes sense. Logical. That's a word. It would be logical to assume that a person would witness a stranger in their house and they would go in their room, lock the door, and call 911. That's logical. Okay, I agree. But we need to change. There's some things here that we have to pay close attention to. Number one, her age. That's number one. Number two, it wasn't just, I saw someone in my house. That moment of seeing him was preceded by a lot of emotional stuff. She got angry thinking Ethan was yelling. She heard Xana crying. Then she heard Kaylee Goncalves say, there's someone here. There's a man in the house, or what? I don't remember exactly what it was. And then she actually sees exactly what Kaylee had said. No, I think she was surviving. She was hunkered down in her bunker, staying alive. And that's why I think she did. I wouldn't have. If I had the fear that somebody was going to come back for me, I would be listening really hard if I hear anybody moving around, but I would not pick up the phone and call someone and talk. And we don't know. She may have texted friends and said, I think someone's in the house with me. I'm afraid to call. Can you help me? Can you call 911? And maybe those friends just did not see those messages. It is, let me say this too. Trust me, it's not unusual for college age people to sleep till 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, even on like a Saturday or Sunday. It's kind of the norm. They go out and party all night. They stay up all night, talk, when they come in, they eat, they talk about what kind of fun they had or who they got mad at. And they may not even start going to sleep until 4, 5, 6 in the morning. So she may have sent those messages at 4, 5, 6 o'clock, but the people she sent it to, maybe they were asleep until noon. Maybe they did not get her text messages until 11 o'clock. And she was just not moving, not making any noise, for horrific fear that the monster was going to come back for her. Yeah, and so this was an illogical situation. Exactly, Larmez Damil. It was an illogical situation. It's hard. This guy is a maniac. He's a psychopath. However we want to put it, he did the unthinkable. He senselessly extinguished 4 lives for no other reason than I want to prove that I measure up. That's it. There's absolute callousness in that. Absolute lack of appreciation for human life in general. So there's no logic. You'll never, mark my words on this, you'll never understand Brian Kohberger through logic. He is illogical. He goes against nature. He is the exact opposite of what me and you would do. What you have to do is you have to learn about the dark tetrad and then try to see his actions and behaviors through those concepts. And then you can maybe see a little bit more of why he did the things he did. I'm really blown away. I am blown away to find out that he began hunting them in June, which was the same exact time that he moved to town. That's shocking to me. I would have really believed that he'd have been all full of himself about starting his PhD program. And that is not what was going on. That's very interesting to me. It makes me wonder somehow, did he move there in order to do this killing or this crime of the century that he was probably dreaming up in his mind? BTK's daughter is terrified. She's sending out the warning loud and clear. Somebody better go to the prison and talk to my dad, because I am afraid that my dad has been in communication with Brian and may have actually facilitated Brian to do this murder or these 4 murders. Somebody better listen to that. That has merit coming from the daughter of one of the most heinous killers that this country's ever known. So again, don't make the mistake of trying to be logical. There's no logic where Brian Kohberger is concerned. You're going to have to learn about the dark tetrad and then try and evaluate his actions and behaviors through those 4 concepts and domains. Yeah, I don't think he wanted to get caught. Don't get me wrong here. I know there's people that feel that, that kind of envision that. I guess because the idea is if I'm caught, then people will know who I am, right? But doesn't he have to have successful crimes before he can be notorious? Otherwise, he's just dumb. Otherwise, he's just a wannabe criminal that didn't measure up, right? Which is exactly what he is, incidentally. No, I think he did not want to get caught, not by a long shot. Self-preservation is always there. But yeah, sure, 100%. I think he wanted to be notorious. I think he wanted to join the ranks of BTK and Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer in terms of notoriety. And I hate to use the word fame, but being well known, right? He wants to be a monster, but he's just a dumb monster. He's a clown. He wasn't any good at it. And that's what, I said that when I've talked about serial killers in the past. There's probably there's at least 2 psychopaths for every state at any given time. Some research says more than that, but for sure 2. I think that one, the research project I'm quoting that says 2 serial killers per state on average, that's 2 serial killers that have not been captured, that are not incarcerated. Okay. So that's kind of scary. To be a serial killer, you have to be smart enough to get away with at least 3 murders and not get caught. And he couldn't. This was ostensibly the first one that we know of. I do think I'm totally, he's the one that killed Buddy. I believe that, my heart. I think this was the first one. I didn't previously think that, but I think that now after the mistakes he made, this constant circles through the neighborhood, leaving his phone off. And then the one night he does the crime, he turns his, he circled through the neighborhood with his phone on. And then the one night he kills her, kills the kids. He turns his phone off, so he demonstrates a change in his pattern of behavior that coincides directly with the crime. No, he's stupid. He's a stupid guy. And thank God for cats. That's all I got to say. Yay, cats. Right, alley cat tails? All right. That is it for today. I do have another video that I just finished recording. Forensic evaluations, both civil and criminal. And so that is going to go up sometime next week. Because I'm going to be really busy this upcoming week. I'm probably not going to have a lot of free time. So if you want to subscribe so you get notifications when that video goes live, then I would appreciate that. But if you want to get the notification, you have to press the bell. So you got to hit subscribe. Then you have to press the bell so you get notification of the forensic evaluations, both civil and criminal. And I really, because I'm really curious about why this guy moves to the vicinity and immediately begins to hunt, why wasn't he interested in his PhD status? Because he definitely seems to have, delusions of grandeur. So I'd really appreciate if you could tell me why you think he started hunting. Do you think he was already hunting people in Pennsylvania? Do you think he had already killed people in Pennsylvania and it's just unsolved crimes, or they got the wrong person? Does it seem weird to you that the minute he touches down there, he's already looking for victims? It's very strange to me. And I think I haven't seen anybody address that. So, put your ideas there. I'd like to know what you think about that specifically. Of course, anything about it, but specifically, what do you make of this deal that he moves to town and immediately starts hunting? He already knew he was going to look for somebody. Mary Rose says, Incel Online Network. Maybe he is in touch with some of that Elliot Rogers crap. Maybe. All right. So, subscribe, hit the bell so you get a notification of the forensic evaluations video that's going to go up the middle of the week. And then I'd really like to know your thoughts on him immediately hunting the minute he comes to town to start his PhD studies. It's very atypical. It's really strange. All right. Listen, people, y'all are awesome. I appreciate you. I am very grateful to be able to come here and chat and talk about these things because nobody else ever wants to talk about true crime, right? All right. Y'all have a great day.